Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Tyler from the Keep Pounding podcast. Technical difficulties, had the internet go out and then turn it back on. So hopefully it works. If it doesn't, we'll have to try to do this tomorrow. So hopefully this will be the final take. But welcome to the Keep Pounding podcast. I'm Tyler. I've been out for a couple weeks. As I mentioned before, I been out because I've been searching for a house. So we were in escrow, a lot of things going on, and then flu in the house. Work has been crazy, so life has been really, really busy. So that's why I haven't been on the last several weeks. But we're hopefully able to do a stream today, as long as the internet holds up. Hopefully it does. And then there's been some issues with StreamYard, so hopefully everything works out. If not, we'll just try a different day. So welcome to the Keep Pounding podcast. If you are new here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, and let me know what your guys' thoughts are about the upcoming draft, who you want us to select, what positions we should look at, and who are some of the guys that you would like us to target. So we're going to get straight into the content. And there's going to be a few things that we're going to talk about that you probably have already heard about, whether it's through yourself or through other podcasters. But since it's been several weeks, we'll kind of go over some of the news. We won't go over everything. There's been a lot since I've seen you guys last, which was when Devin Lloyd and Jalen Phillips was signed. But we'll go over some of the news, and then we'll get into some of the content. Okay. So we signed PJ Dillon. So PJ Dillon was played for the Packers and then also played for last year for the Eagles. So his rookie year, he didn't play that much. He was drafted back in 2020. His first couple years, he was RB2. He was behind Aaron Jones, I believe, with the Packers. And those first 2 years, those first two seasons, he put up decent numbers. He averaged 800 yards per season. He played 17 games. He averaged 6 touchdowns of the year. So not too bad for a RB2. And that's what he's been pretty much his whole career. But then you go to 2023, he had several injuries, one of them being a stinger on his neck, which kept him out the final 3 games of the season and the playoffs, where he had roughly over 600 yards rushing. And then he re-signed with the Packers the following year in 2024, but missed the entire season due to the neck stinger that was sustained again during training camp. And then last year, he signed with the Eagles, a 1-year contract, and he played behind Saquon Barkley and Will Shipley and didn't really get any reps. So, the last 3 years, he hasn't been productive given injuries and then who he's played behind. But this is somebody that has shown that he can be a good RB2. And this is somebody that I think will be a Jonathon Brooks insurance policy. So he could potentially be a camp body. We could obviously possibly draft a running back later in the later rounds, but I do think, one of the 4 running backs on the roster right now isn't going to be on there when it comes to the 53. So you're obviously going to have Chuba Hubbard. If Jonathon Brooks is healthy, he's going to be on the roster, but to me, it's going to be between PJ Dillon and Trevor Etienne. And to me, Trevor Etienne can he be RB3? I think that they do like him. They do like his potential, but also I think if he was the kick returner, punt returner, I think he has a stronger possibility of being on the team. But this is somebody, again, he hasn't the last several years been productive in the league because of injuries in certain circumstances, but this is a good camp body. This is somebody that is a goal line guy. He's a short yardage situation guy. He's somebody that I would not mind having as RB3. So you got PJ Dillon as pretty much, in my opinion, it's more of an insurance policy for Jonathon Brooks. He's, besides goal line, he's a great pass blocker. He can catch out of the back of it a little bit, but he's someone that you can rely on. But we'll see if he makes the initial 53. So Austin Corbett signed a 1-year deal with Joe Brady and Brandon Beane, keeping that Panther Bills player pipeline alive. So I never thought we'd bring him back in unless it was for a med minimum. I feel like the writing was on the wall with Austin Corbett. He was beat out by Cade Mays and went to Detroit. And even when he was in, he didn't play that great. He wasn't terrible, but he's not somebody that I would sign multi-million dollar contract to. I think if he was like, 1 year, $1 million, $1.3 million deal, sure, for depth, but he is now a Buffalo Bill. So I feel like most Panther fans kind of wanted this. I didn't really see him as a long-term or even a short-term answer at center. I just felt like he was more of a chess piece depending on depending on injuries. So uh, now with Austin Corbett out, we do we need to start building some depth at the offensive line, but he is now a Buffalo Bill. But I want to go into and talk about the topics that Dave Canales mentioned during the owners meetings. So as I mentioned before, there was rumors, or like not so much rumors, but just a lot of people talking about this draft is for depth. And I can, again, understand why people say that, because this roster is getting better and better overall. So now it makes it a little bit harder to when you draft, to have multi draft selections to make impacts. I mean, and if you can do that, that's great. But when you are really good at drafting, it makes it a little bit harder. And the reason why is, like, the Panthers several years ago, when Dave Canales and Dan Morgan were when they were hired, this roster was absolutely horrible. There was from top down, it was horrible. So it makes sense that the several drafts you have first, second, third, fourth, fifth rounders contributing. Now that the roster is starting to bulk up and get better and better, it may not be as easy, but and I think that's why people are saying that this is more of a depth draft. And Dave Canales disagrees. He feels like rounds 1 through 3, he wants immediate impact on the team. I felt like that was, for the most part, what we got last year with Ted Rollo-McMillan, Nick Scorton. I mean, Princely, I wouldn't say he's immediate impact, but he was a contributor. So it's something that I would agree with. But there was a few topics that he went over, and let's go over a couple of them. So one of them was him basically saying that him and Dan Morgan were having conversations about the defensive front, and I'm assuming Evero as well, on how to manage these players around talent. So he says Bobby Brown and Turk Wharton give them versatility to switch things up. Turk Wharton, he's a really productive interior pass rusher. He before he came with the Panthers and signed with us, the last season with the Chiefs, he had 8.5 sacks. So he is a interior defensive lineman that can get after the quarterback. He gets into the backfield. He creates pressure. He wins with leverage. He's quick. But the main concern is his size, but also his health. He was out in 8 games last year. And with his size, there were questions about the run defense. But I feel like last year when he was healthy, he obviously couldn't get much of a rhythm because he was out all the time. But I feel like for the most part, he was solid. But given the money that we paid him, we didn't get that return on investment. So I want to see a full year out of him, but his skill set is more of an interior pass rusher. Now with Bobby Brown III, he's more of a true big nose tackle. So he's kind of built to anchor the middle, stop the run, clog things up inside. He's a very strong tackler with upside. He's still young, but he doesn't offer right now that much at pass rush. So you're mainly getting a run stuffing presence with him. And then, so you have 2 defensive tackles, interior defensive linemen, that have 2 different skill sets for the most part. One pass rush, one run stopping. And now when you have Ashawn Robinson that was released because of as a cap casualty, we saved $2 million releasing him. That opens the door to where we possibly could draft an interior defensive lineman at 19. Could it be a Peter Woods? Could it be a Caleb Downs? Could it be a Caden McDonald? At 19, I don't know, but it opens the possibilities of us getting a player like that. So he mentioned how they're kind of playing with the creativity, Dave Canales and Dan Morgan, about how they're going to utilize Bobby Brown and Turk Wharton. So it'll be interesting to see, because obviously Ashawn Robinson was a starter, and then Bobby Brown played behind him. Turk Wharton would have been a starter as well on the other side, but injuries. So it's gonna be interesting how they utilize these 2 players, given certain circumstances and certain downs, whether it's rushing downs, obvious rushing downs, or obvious passing downs. So one of the other things he talked about was center. So the center position, we obviously picked up Luke Fortner, 1 year deal, and then he also mentioned Nick Samick. So he talked about the center position as far as not handing that position to anybody. They are going to have to earn during OTAs, mini camp, training camp. They're going to have to earn the starting role. To me, right now, the projected starter is Luke Fortner, but he didn't rule out drafting the center. I do think this is a very, very possible draft that we could come away with a center in the maybe later third round, fourth round. Typically, the centers go around the third. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But center is something that we have that locked up for now, but we need to get younger at that position, not just the center, but along the offensive line, because we're paying right now $80 million for Ikem Ekwonu that's going to be out maybe the whole year. Damian Lewis, Robert Hunt, and Taylor Moton. So you have Taylor Moton that's getting older, that's costing money. We need to get younger at this position. So it wouldn't surprise me if center and or offensive tackle is taken this. I feel like it has to be. So center was a position that he talked about. It's not going to be given to Luke Fortner. It needs to be earned. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to be an interesting camp battle to see how that plays out. He also mentioned Jonathon Brooks. So obviously Jonathon Brooks, he tore his ACL back-to-back years. So the most recent one was December 8th of 2024. Obviously, he took the whole season off last season, but he is expected to be ready for OTAs, which is in May. So Canales hopes he can get back to how he was playing before the injury. Obviously, I don't know I believe he played for Texas, if I'm not mistaken, but he was an explosive, strong running back, not afraid of contact. He was able to catch out of the backfield. He was more dynamic than Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle. But if you can get a healthy Jonathon Brooks, which is, I think, going to be a bonus and what Dave Canales is looking at, I don't think they're really counting on him to contribute. They're just viewing this as hey, if he's healthy and he can play the way he did before, that's a bonus for us. But I don't think they're counting on that. They're hoping for it, but I don't think they're counting on it because they obviously signed PJ Dillon, and it wouldn't surprise me if they draft a running back in the later rounds for this. So the running back group right now is strong, but you have Chuba Hubbard that was out several weeks last year. Obviously, Jonathon Brooks was injured. So I feel like you need to maybe add another body to this room, but we'll see. But if Brooks can stay healthy and play the way he was playing in college, but this offense is going to look something special. It's going to look totally different, and it's going to be a bonus for the offense and Brad Idzik, and Bryce Young. So we'll see. It'll be fun to see him in OTAs and training camp. I'm sure they're going to take it nice and slow, but he had a full year to recover rehab, and I feel like if he gets another tear, I think that's going to be the end of his career. So I'm wishing him nothing but the best. I hope that he stays healthy and contributes and plays at the level that he can. And remember, when we drafted him, that was the year we picked up Trevin Wallace. Who's the first rounder that year that we picked up? Xavier Legette. So that draft was kind of a rough draft. You had Xavier Legette, Jonathon Brooks, Xavier Legette. Now hasn't really panned out. You have Jonathon Brooks that hasn't panned out because of the injuries. You have Trevin Wallace that's been but the good part of that draft was Jalen Coker. It was an undrafted free agent. But getting this guy back is going to be it's going to be amazing if he can stay healthy and play the way he was playing. So that's something, again, that Canales talked about, but hopefully he can get back to the way he was playing before. Another player that he talked about was Ikem Ekwonu. So obviously Icky is recovering from a torn patellar tendon that he still hasn't given us the timeline. I don't expect them to give us a timeline until like later in the off season, maybe like early season. But this is a player like he's going to miss at least half the season, probably 75% of the season. Again, this happened January of this year, 3-4 months ago. So it's still fresh, and you have players that have recovered from this 9 months, but that was a tight end. I believe it was Jimmy Graham. It took him 9 months to recover, but a left tackle with a knee injury, that's going to be tricky. And this, again, the Dan Morgan did a great job. We signed Rasheed Walker to a 1-year deal, experienced left tackle that played for the Packers, a really good pass protector, not the best run blocker in the world, but pretty much the opposite of Icky. Icky's a really good run blocker. He is getting better and was solid at pass blocking, actually, but Rasheed Walker is known for pass blocking. You have Storm Forsythe, hopefully he's just a camp body, but the Panthers have built insurance at left tackle, so there's obviously no need to rush Icky back. So with Icky, it would be nice to see him play 2 or 3 games to see how things are going, but I don't see them even if he recovers fully, he's fully healthy, and he played solid the last let's say the last 2 games he played okay. You're not gonna sign him to a multi-million dollar deal like you would have this past or this offseason if he didn't injure his knee. You're not gonna do that. You wanna see how this guy plays for a full season first. So I can see them maybe signing him to a 1-year deal, but I don't even think that the Panthers, Dave Canales, Dan Morgan really know what they want to do. I think they're just kind of playing it by ear, and I'm sure they have multiple plans depending on how Icky responds to the injury and how he plays post injury. I'm sure they have plans for that, but I think also to me the biggest question mark for me is do we draft an offensive tackle? And I think that's a very strong possibility. That's why there's been multiple mock drafts of us picking up a tackle, whether it's left tackle, right tackle, or a swing tackler, because of this reason, because you have Icky injured and you have Taylor Moton that's getting older. So, it wouldn't surprise me if they do draft a left tackle. They, again, need cheaper contracts, Icky's injury, Moton's age. They're already spending big money at the guard position. So it would make sense if there's a player that drops that they like, that it would make sense to take that player. And now you have a solid left tackle for years to come on a cheaper deal. So it'll be interesting to see what they do long term moving forward. One thing the Panthers did drop earlier this week was they gave us an update as far as the dates for their offseason program. So April 20th, the offseason begins. You have OTAs, you have, which is actually May 26th, 27th, and 29th. And then June 1st, 2nd, and 4th, you have mandatory minicamp for 3 days, which is June 9th to the 11th. Training camp is in July. We have the Hall of Fame game versus the Cardinals August 6th. That's an extra game that no starters are going to play, but it gives more reps to the depth players. But remember, with the offseason, there's several phases, right? So you have phase 1, that's more like meetings, conditioning, rehab, not so much football. And then you have phase 2, you have the on-field drills. There's no contact. There's really no any competition. But phase 3 during OTAs, which is in late May, that's where you get the 7-on-7, the 11-on-11s, but no contact. So those are the projected dates. That's going to be fun to see. And when we get to that point, we'll start going over some camp battles and who is on the bubble to making the roster and all that stuff. So those are the off-season program dates this summer. But again, to me, with everything that we have done, the biggest question mark for me is, or not the biggest question mark, what are the biggest team needs? Like, what do we still need as a team? Okay. So obviously you have, I think nickel corner is number one. The Panthers have done a lot of research on nickel corner recently. You have Panthers analyst, he's on Twitter. Check him out if you're not familiar with him. So they break down and they're very good about telling you who's visiting. Was it a top 30 visit? Was it a pro day visit? Was it a Zoom meeting? They're very on top of like who the Panthers have seen as far as draft prospects. But nickel corner to me is number one. Number two is playmaking safety. So obviously you have Nick Scott, but we can get better there. You have offensive tackle that we mentioned before with Icky and Timo. Those are contracts, or those are players that we possibly could replace. I still think we need a speedy wide receiver. We need another inside linebacker to play along Devin Lloyd. Interior defensive lineman that we talked about before, and running back, I still think is something that we need to add. But I want to go into each position and kind of go over these. So nickel corner again is, I think, the biggest need we have right now that I do think the Panthers will target. Will they target at 19? I don't think so. I think it'll be more third round, maybe second, but more third, fourth round. But Shaw Smith Wade, I thought he was average, below average nickel player. He had a 57 overall PFF grade. He had a 57.2 coverage grade. With him, he allowed a 98.8 passing rating when targeted, which is just horrible. He averaged just under 10 yards per reception when targeted, which ranked him 96 out of 114 cornerbacks. His run defense was actually worse, which I didn't expect. I thought it would be the coverage. No, the run defense was worse. He had a 55.4 PFF grade on run defense. He got picked on a lot by taller, big, wider receivers, tight ends. I don't know if you guys remember, Mike Evans just destroyed him. I believe it was the second game of the first matchup that we had. He had some missed tackles in the open field, but overall, like, he is a decent tackler. I will say that he's not a bad tackler. He had 50 last year. He had one pick, one pass breakup. Evero did play him, not just at nickel, but outside when needed at safety. He's still young. He's 23. I don't think he's somebody that we may release, but I do think we need to upgrade at this position. If you remember, we drafted him in the 5th round back in 2024. But the Panthers have had several visits and done their homework on several safety nickel hybrids in this draft. There's one I really like that they've talked to, which is Arizona's Traden Stukes, which was actually T-Mac's teammate a couple years ago. He has the tape I've seen. This guy is phenomenal. He has amazing ball skills, great recovery speed, really good marrying ability. He doesn't really commit too many penalties. He had 4 interceptions and 6 pass breakups last year. I think he would be an upgrade over Shaw Smith Wade. I just think I really think we're gonna come away with a player that can be versatile, and I think this is something Evero wants, is a player that can be versatile and play both safety and nickel corner and give Evero a lot of flexibility. I think with a trade in Stukes, I think they project him like a late second, mid third. So he's somebody that I wouldn't be mad about in the 3rd round. Great. I think he's a really good player. Another player that they've targeted and talked to is South Carolina's safety nickel Jalen Kilgore, which is actually a projected 3rd round pick as well. So they have done a lot of homework when it comes to draft prospects as far as nickel corners. I do believe that nickel corner is going to be strongly considered in this draft. I think it's a very, very strong possibility. So those are a couple players that I think would be great contributors or impact players if we did draft them over Shaw Smith Wade. They're strong, they're fast, they're physical. Shaw Smith Wade is more, I think, is 5'11", 185 pounds. You want someone like Corey Thornton. Whenever he stepped in at nickel when Shaw Smith Wade was out, I thought he played really well. And he's 6'2", 200 pounds, strong, lanky, and you want a player that can play physical and do that. So this is definitely a position I can see us targeting day 2. Now, again, the other position I think we will target is safety. I think we need, again, more of a playmaking safety. So Nick Scott, I know a lot of people, a lot of fans, they're not a fan of him. I can understand why, but the guy isn't a bum. The guy is not a bum. He has a 67.8 PFF defensive grade, which ranks him 36 out of 98 safeties. So he's a little bit better than mid. He started all 17 games last year. He played 98% of the snaps. He played a lot of snaps. His coverage grade was 67.3, which is ranked him 31 out of 98, again, above average. His run defense was more solid as far as the defensive grade, 69.3, but it ranked him 56 out of 98. He had 1 interception, 1 pass breakup, and what I found interesting, and I can again understand why people don't like or not the biggest fan of his, is because he does and has been inconsistent in coverage, and he can give up the big play down the field. In a crazy stat, his passer rating is worse than Shaw Smith Wade. He gives up 115.7 passing rating and has gave up several touchdowns. So he's 31. He's getting older. He's a solid tackler, but again, he's inconsistent in coverage and he has low volume impact plays. So can you Can you get better than Nick Scott? Yes. But can you get worse? Yes. So this is somebody like, hey, this is a stopgap guy until we get somebody else. Maybe Lathan Ramsden steps up, but this is somebody where, hey, there's the Oregon safety. I wouldn't be mad at him at 19. He's an impact player. So that's somebody that we could possibly target. But this is a position I can see us possibly targeting day 1, day 2. So playmaking safety for me was number 2 need. Number 3, we talked about it, offensive tackles. The offensive tackle position is there's not a lot of blue chip players, and based on what I'm hearing and what I've kind of seen is there's not a good amount of talent coming out of as far as offensive tackles goes. So, but given the Icky's injury, Taylor Moton is on his last year of his deal. I don't see us extending him, to be honest with you. And with how much we're spending on at the offensive line right now, it just makes sense that we get younger and cheaper at the offensive line position, the offensive tackle position. We have been mock taking an offensive tackle a good amount of time, this offseason, and it makes sense why. I again also think center is a position we could address in the draft as well. With K Mays going to the Lions and sign Luke Fortner to a 1-year deal, it makes sense that we could draft a center. We are in a position where we don't absolutely need to draft an offensive tackle in the first round, but it's something we will need to address next offseason if we don't do it this year. But I just believe that we're either getting an offensive tackle or a center or both. I feel like you can't really come away this year not getting one of those. Darkness hates Nick Scott. I know. I mean, I don't blame you. I'm just saying you can get worse than Nick Scott. You can get better, but you can get worse. But I do think offensive line, you got to be able to, you got to come away with one of those positions, offensive tackle or center. Now, the other one that we talked about was speedy wide receiver. I still think we need to add to the wide receiver room, particularly a speedy wide receiver, someone that has playmaking ability. XL is now wide receiver 3 at best. I'm not fully out on XL, but I'm close. I don't see him trending upwards, to be honest. I think I've seen enough to get a good idea of what kind of player XL is. He's a 3rd round wide receiver at best right now. I think he does have the ability to be a really good player, but he's 3rd round. Like what he's been giving us is 3rd round at best. He's shown flashes, mainly his rookie season, but drops and lack of consistency has really hurt him. And you can honestly see the distrust by Bryce. There were times XL were open last season, but he wasn't targeted. I wasn't a fan, honestly, of his interview that he had on Cam Newton's podcast, the 4th and 1 podcast. Love the podcast, by the way. Check it out. But I wasn't a fan that he showed pretty much no accountability for how he played last season. Yes, I wasn't a fan of the dink and dunks, and all that stuff. I get it. But, bro, you can't do that. You can't do that. So I wasn't a fan of that. But I don't know. I just feel like the writing's on the wall with XL unless he, bro, that there's been reports of us targeting a wide receiver in the 1st round. And if that happens, XL is out of here. I've heard several people say like, if we drafted number 1, if we draft a wide receiver at 19, it wouldn't make sense for us to let him go. Yes, it would, because he still has 2 years left on his rookie deal. You have that 5th year option. If we draft a wide receiver at 19, which I don't think it'll happen, but I think to me that's more smokescreen. I think it's more important to get more protection than it is getting another playmaker right now. But if we get a wide receiver 19, he's not on the team anymore. He's not. In my opinion, he's not. I could be wrong, but it just wouldn't make sense keeping him on the team. Now, as far as Jimmy Horn, I still want to see what this guy can do. He has been utilized more. He was definitely being more utilized towards the end of the season. At first, they had him do more of what XL was doing when it wasn't effective because of the Jimmy Horn has got a lot of speed, but it wasn't it just wasn't successful. the screens, the dump offs. But the last couple of games, you did see them utilize Jimmy Horn down the field more. If we can do that consistently and be successful at it, that will really open the offense and provide more unpredictability. And I think that was a big reason why we're very predictable on the offense is because there was no threat down the field. And when you don't have a threat down the field, the defense can play up, and that makes the windows even tighter for Bryce and the offense. But I would love for them to add more competition. I understand they already added John Mechie, who played with Bryce in Alabama. I think there is untapped potential there, but still would love to add competition to that room, particularly someone with speed. I don't want another tall receiver that runs a 4 or 5. We need to add something that we don't have on this offense, which is speed. Again, I'm not fully out on Jimmy Horn. I think he needs more opportunities, but we need to add more competition. So, which we did with John Mechie. But I think add a little bit more competition to that room doesn't hurt. We talked about inside linebacker. I still think inside linebacker is another position I think we could add more competition or improve at. We already added, obviously, a playmaker in Devin Lloyd that instantly impacts not just that position, but the defense. Would love to add another good player alongside him. We struggled in coverage last year, specifically in the middle of the field, mainly, obviously, to Christian Roseboom, who is now a Falcon. Good luck with that. Now we're going to really be able to throw the ball down the middle of the field. But we really struggle with tight ends, wide receivers, shifty running backs in the middle of the field. So Devin Lloyd is going to improve that position, but also you got Trevin Wallace, who has struggled with injuries the last couple of years. He's been on IR from back-to-back seasons due to the shoulder injuries. Now, Trevin Wallace was improving last season. He was the green dot for several games, but Trevin particularly really improved in coverage. His PFF grade was 64.5, which ranked him 25 out of 88, but the run defense is where he really, really struggled. He had a 42.3 PFF grade at run defense, 85 out of 88. That is not going to get you playing time on Evro's defense. It's not. XL needs an attitude adjustment period. He thinks, in my opinion, I was drafted in the first round, and he's bringing that attitude more and more, and it just looks terrible in plays shows it too. Yeah, he doesn't bring any. He hasn't really shown any accountability. Just be accountable. Just say, hey, I need to play better. Like most fans will understand. Like if you watch the games, they did route wise, call wise, they could put XL in a better position, but XL didn't take advantage of certain positions in certain situations. When your name is called upon, even if it's not a play that you love or you feel like it's not a part of your skill set, you don't say, "Oh, like they put me in a bad position." Make the best of your opportunities. You're not the best your opportunity you're going to get is the one you got right now. You need to make the best of your opportunities, and if you're just going to say, "Well, that wasn't a good opportunity. I need a better opportunity," I don't want you on my team. I don't want you on my team. But going back to Trevin Wallace, I do think we can move on from him. Sorry, I don't think we'll move on from him, but I think we can upgrade at this position and use Wallace as a depth piece. Like Trevin Wallace isn't bad; he's getting better, but the injuries mounting up, the run defense liability. I do think like that is a possibility that we could draft a inside linebacker. We talked to Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas. He's a top linebacker coming out of the draft. I think I have him ranked third overall, like third at that position. We had him, I believe it was let me see. I want to say we brought him in for a top 30 visit. Let me double check real quick, actually. I actually have this written down. Thanks to Edgar, I have this written down. Let's see. Anthony Hill Jr. We we went to his pro day. So we've already visited him, but that's somebody that could if you add Anthony Hill to this, and Anthony Hill I think is more of a second rounder. Wait, can you hear me? Oh man, hold on. What is going on? I'm having really bad internet issues. Thank you, Darkness, for letting me know. Oh no. Okay. So I was talking about Ashawn Robinson. I'm not sure where I was at. I'm assuming I was talking about the inside linebackers. Uh, so the inside linebackers, I do think we can target that position. But now let's talk about interior defensive line. So it's the internet has been bad here. The last for me, I need to call my internet company. They have the last several days, each day that's gone out for whatever reason, and everything's been updated, equipment, everything. I don't know what's going on. So I need to get them to come out here and see what's going on. But interior defensive line. So again, we talked about Ashawn Robinson that was let go. He's a cap casualty and is now a Buccaneer. Now you have Turk Wharton that's missed 8 games. This position is looking more and more like that it needs to be addressed, right? We talked about earlier that Turk Wharton is more of a pass rush interior defensive lineman, and then you have Bobby Brown III that's more of a run defense nose tackle that has upside to be a pass rusher. But I wouldn't be mad about a Caleb Banks, a Peter Woods, maybe this later if we traded back or in the second round, getting a Caden McDonald. Let me see. I just want to make sure. Okay, I just want to make sure we're still good to go. All right. But this is definitely something where it's becoming more of a need. We've also had a top 30 visit with Tyler Oneedham. That's a projected late round pick. You have Landon Robinson from the Navy, another interior defensive lineman. That's a projected late round pick. So, uh, interior defensive line is definitely being looked at as much as offensive tackle is. So that's a position I can see us getting. And then also running back. I know not a lot of people. I'm not saying that we need to draft a running back early. Even the guy from what is it, Navy, I believe, the top running back in the class. I forget his name, but that's not somebody I would even target at 19. And this guy is an electric. I think he's going to be a blue chip running back, but not a 19. Again, with Brooks being injury prone, that is something the Panthers may consider doing later in rounds. You still have Chuba Hubbard. He missed a couple games. Trevor Etienne. We'll see if he makes the team. The initial 53, PJ Dillon. Insurance policy for Brooks, but this room wouldn't hurt with more competition. Dave Canales says he wants to be a run first offense. Haven't really seen that yet, but if he truly means that, I could see him use a day 3 pick on a running back. So it's more for depth. Now, again, if Jonathon Brooks gets injured again, that's where you're going to have to look at maybe next season, next draft or next offseason addressing the running back room. And running backs are a lot more easily replaceable than other positions. So, whoops. Okay. Just want to make sure I'm still live. So again, this is something where I think if you maybe possibly address this in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. Now, and speaking of the draft, though, the draft is only 2 weeks away. So we have round 1, 19 overall, round 2, number 51 overall, round 3, pick 83. We have 1 4th round pick, which is pick 119. You have 2 5th round picks, pick 158 and 159. Round 6, which is number 200, and round 7, number 235. Now, I don't really see us moving that much in the first round. We never really been historically with Brandon Tillis and Dan Morgan. We don't really do that. But in the day 2 and day 2s, every single draft the last 2 years, we have moved up to pick a guy. So I do see us possibly doing that. We have more ammo with another 5th round pick with the Minnesota pick when we traded Adam Thielen. So that was a free pick. But we can pick best player available. I don't think this will be like a sexy draft where we get another wide receiver. I know it's been mocked to us, but I just don't see that happening. But this draft is about just adding. I don't think it's going to be more, in my opinion, more the trenches, safety, nickel corner. I don't think you're going to see like flashy draft, but we'll see. I do think you'll get a couple of like impact players. But again, Dave Canales mentioned he wants an impact player. He doesn't want someone that's going to be just depth. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited about the draft. We'll see. It's going to be very interesting. This is a draft that I'm not really sure what route we're going to take. And I think the higher you get into the draft as far as draft selection, the harder it is to predict because, again, like we have holes, but they're not as glaring as some of the as prior years where you knew we were going to pick a quarterback. We knew we were going to pick a wide receiver. Well, half of us did. You knew that we needed a wide receiver the last couple of years. So this is going to be something where I just think it's going to be who falls to us. And to me, I kind of hope it's going to be an offensive lineman or defensive lineman. I like the trenches. That's how you win football games. You have to win in the trenches. What happened to Cam Jackson? He's still there. I think Cam Jackson is, he's going to compete. He's a depth piece, but I don't think he's going to start. You didn't really see him play that much, except when Turk Wharton was out, and then maybe Ashawn Robinson was out. You saw him play a couple of times, but he didn't play that much. He's got the physical traits, but can he put it together? We'll see. But if you guys haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are as far as who you would like the Panthers to pick up, what positions you think they should address, and just give me some names that you feel like, hey, like these are some later round guys that you would love for us to pick up. So again, thanks for the support. Hit the like button, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And keep pounding. See you on the next one. Peace.